We read in the gospel text of today from John chapter 1, verses 35 to 42. And these verses contain the call of the first two disciples according to the Gospel of John. I would suggest that you place yourself in the position of one of the two disciples. And the reason why I ask you to do that is because John does not give us the name of the second disciple at all. Later, he tells us the name of one of the two, but not at the beginning. And this is the scene which I would like you to witness or to see in your mind's eye. It is known as application of the senses. I put my mind, my heart, my sense of touching, my sense of taste, my sense of smell, my sense of hearing, my sense of feeling. I put all of those senses into the text, and I stand there as one of the two disciples. The scene is now the third day in the Gospel of John. And in Christian theology, the third day was always regarded as an important day, as we say in the Creed, on the third day he rose again. So when John uses this phrase, the next day, which is the third day, then we must know that something important is going to take place. And on this third day, John the Baptist is standing with two of his disciples. And even as he stands, we must realize that John was a teacher and a rabbi in his own right. John had something valuable to give people, and that is why they came to him. That is why he had disciples. That is why people followed him. However, even though John had a lot to give people and John gave a lot to people, John also knew that his Lord could give them infinitely more than he could ever dream of giving. So even as he stands with two of his disciples, he sees Jesus passing by. And as Jesus passes by, John knows that his role has come to an end, because his role will end when he points his disciples to Jesus. And as he sees Jesus, he tells his disciples, "This is the Lamb of God." On the second day of John's Gospel, John the Baptist has used 4 titles to identify Jesus: Lamb of God, pre-existent one, vehicle of the Spirit, and Son of God. Now, when he points Jesus out to his disciples, he uses only one, the first and the most challenging one, the Lamb of God. The reason why he uses this title is because he wants to tell his disciples clearly whom they are going after. And that's why the evangelist tells us that when the disciples heard John say it, in other words, the disciples of John understood what John meant when he pointed Jesus out to them as the Lamb of God, and they went behind Jesus, knowing fully well whom they were going behind. And Jesus turns and looks at them. And the first question that Jesus asks in the Gospel of John is chapter 1, verse 38, which is the first time Jesus speaks. And the question is in 2 Greek words, ti zeteite, which in translated mean, what do you seek? It is on the surface level a courteous question. But on the deeper level, it makes a person go right into the depth of the person's heart to be able to answer. Because this question, what do you seek, can mean, what are you looking for? What is your plan in life? Why do you continue to live? What do you hope to get out of life? What do you seek? The disciples are shown as intelligent in this instance because they don't reply with an answer. They reply with a counter question, asking the Lord where he remains. Rabbi, pu menes. Rabbi, where do you remain? Which may be translated, Rabbi, where do you stay? It can also mean, Rabbi, where do you abide? Rabbi, where do you reside? Rabbi, where do you live? By asking the Lord where he lives, we are really not asking for a residential address, but they are asking the Lord where he is at home. And that is why Jesus does not give them an address, but issues an invitation. And the invitation is in two imperatives, erkeste, kai obseste. Come and see. The disciples are invited to come and remain with the Lord, to come and stay with the Lord, to come and abide with the Lord, to come and reside with the Lord, to come and let their being and his being be one. And the next verse tells us that the disciples went and remained where the Lord was remaining. John uses a menan to indicate that the remaining was continuous. It never ended. They stayed where he was staying. They remained where he was remaining. They abided where he was abiding. They resided where he was residing. Their being and his being were one. And then John gives us a time reference. And the time is hora henhos dekate. It was the 10th hour. What is special about the 10th hour? The 10th hour does not mean that it is 4 o'clock in the evening. That is not what John is saying, even though the 10th hour is 4 p.m. Yes, but that's not what he's saying. The 10th period, according to some apocalyptic calculations, was the decisive hour, was the hour to say yes or no, was the hour to decide for or against. So what the evangelist is saying is that when he says it was the 10th hour, it was the hour. The disciples decided for Jesus. And then, and only then, does the evangelist give us one of the two names. One of them who followed him was Andrew. And we notice Andrew's reaction. Andrew cannot contain himself. Andrew is so filled with the presence of the Lord. Andrew is so filled with the gift of the Lord's presence that he wants to share it, much like Mary wanted to share it with Elizabeth in the visitation. And so Andrew rushes to his brother Simon and says, "We have found the Messiah." I said at the beginning, you are the other disciple. Andrew's reaction was, "We have found the Messiah." What will your reaction be?